This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead and eat it. Oh, you mean for the other people? Sure, go ahead. Man. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for the bars? It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong live step. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. Ooh, today is orientation, day one ski. Today is not even day one. Today is orientation. So I hope y'all have y'all book ready. I hope y'all have y'all book ready. I hope y'all have y'all book ready. And I hope y'all listen. I hope y'all didn't come for this. Or this. Y'all see what that say? What did I say there? Or this. I hope y'all didn't come for this information here. That is not what we will be doing. Okay. The book for the class. Well, I can't even say main class, but the class that we are in week 11 of. That is this book right here. That is this book right here. Melanin is anabolic. The big fat burning lie. Right? So you need to have this book for that class. And then you need to have this book for this class where we are starting. Today is orientation day. And then after this, we will be starting up the class for this book. And then after the debate, we will be starting up a class based on that book. But I can't show y'all the cover of that book right now, or even the title of that book right now, because the ops are around. The ops is getting real oppy outside. It's getting real oppy outside. Well, all three of those books are available, right? The water book is available on Amazon. The melanin is anabolic book is available on Amazon. And our protein composition book is also available on Amazon. So all of these books are available. Cow! What? Cow! You supposed to be sitting in the front row right next to Tika. Tika right there. Look, this Tika's desk is right here. Tika desk is right here in front of my desk. You supposed to be sitting right in the front row, right with. Yeah. You supposed to be sitting right there in the front row with Tika. You out there in the streets looking delinquent and everything. You out there looking now. Now listen, while we at it, since folks is looking delinquent, let me just make sure y'all have this book. Okay, make sure y'all have this book. This is the this is the main like home study, right? The homework is going to continuously come from this book. So you need to make sure you have this, right? So let me just say, I know because I see Kevo, KVO, Kevo. You know, Kevo is a name that's very dear to my heart. Kevo is a name that's very near and dear to my heart. When I was young, one of my OGs from the neighborhood, his name was Kevo. His name was Kevo. He helped me to develop in a variety of ways. Shout out to Kevo. My dad's name is Horace. That's kind of epic. You grew up in the right household. You grew up in the right household. You know what I'm saying? But we can't give your dad too much love for that. Be careful, right? We got to give that love to your grandparents. That we got to your dad being named Horace. We got to give credit to your grandpa or your grandma for that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we gotta, you know what I'm saying? We gotta give credit to somebody else. Man, I got a good friend right now. He's kind of a contemporary, but he's an OG in his own space. All right. Amazon. Protein composition book, Codex of Living Current, the anabolic book. Make sure y'all go add those to your cart. Check out, like, share, super chat, subscribe, join the Patreon, get some products, send me some money. Listen, this is why y'all ain't see me in a couple of days. I was literally out there on the street, walking up and down the street trying to sell my body. It was rough. I was out there trying to sell my body. I was like, please, somebody, I'll do anything. I'll do anything for a few dollars. I need to get my laptop out of the shop. Man, I can't wait to get my baby back. I can't wait to get my boo-boo back. I miss my boo-boo. No. Today's orientation, we're probably just going to be in this book today. We're probably just going to be in this book today. If you tuned in a little bit late, the brother was asking which books he needed, and so I was kind of going into which books the brother needed to grab to keep up. But today's just orientation, so technically, you still got another day or so. Yeah, you still got another day or so, and we're just going to try to gradually add on the classes, right? Oh, if you are on Twitter right now, if you're watching this on Twitter and you plan to keep on watching this, actually, scratch that last part. I don't care if you accidentally stumbled onto this video on Twitter. Just hit the repost button. Even if you don't plan on finishing watching this video, you just hit the repost so somebody else might want to see it. Yeah. You just go ahead and hit the repost button. All right. So we're going to jump into the introduction of the book. All right. We're going to jump into the introduction of the book. Now, I am trolling just a little bit. Okay, so when we read the book doesn't have anything to do with monkeys. Right? I don't want people to look at the icon. I'm pointing up like y'all can see the icon. I don't want anybody to look at the thumbnail. Right? Don't look at the thumbnail and then be like, oh, this right here must be because this is the book for the debate. So Inky must be talking about. Yeah, no. The thumbnail is the thumbnail because of the wonderful things that he does. Well, Dr. Sebi kind of set us back. Dr. Sebi kind of set us back. Darwin also set us back, right? And then the Darwinists set us back, right? Darwin set us back, and then Darwin's followers. Dr. Sebi set us back, and then his followers. Now, overall, Dr. Sebi is a net positive because I'm standing on his shoulders like some other folks, and he has set us forward with a large amount of what he researched and what he came up with, and we wouldn't be able to build and go forward without it, right? That being said, Dr. Sebi had a very monstrous blunder, right? A very monstrous blunder of teaching that protein did not exist and doubling down on the concept that protein didn't exist with the concept that melanin did not exist. And then in one of his videos, the crazy thing, Dr. Sebi used the reasoning that white folks made that up to confuse us. That white folks made that up. And that the words are just the white man's language. It was kind of crazy. It was cringy. And he referenced carbon and minerals as the only thing that's real in terms of biochemistry. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. Biochemistry and mineral both come from the same linguistic origins as the word protein. Wait a minute. I'm like, hold up. Sebi was picking and choosing, right? Picking and choosing. And then on the flip side, anyway, so there's a lot of people that are set back in that kind of concept that don't really understand in the holistic space. They still are running around with the carbon-based people concept and as if white people are like not carbon-based people, and black people are carbon-based people. And so black people being the only carbon-based people on the planet, we need to eat a carbon-based diet. And the carbon-based diet just so happens to line up with the vegan diet, right? Right up until we take some meat to the laboratory and we find out that meat has just as much as carbon as, or we take some Twinkies. Yeah, we take some Twinkies and pork rinds. Listen, we could take Twinkies, pork rinds, and Pepsi to a lab, and we'll see that carbon is also in Twinkies, pork rinds, and Pepsi. In fact, we can even take a few loose Newports. We can take some loose Newports and some Budweiser to the laboratory as well, and we will notice that carbon is in the loose Newports. Yeah, loose Newports. We got to go loose Newports to keep it hood. Like a box of Newports, we got to go loose Newports. Make sure we, keep it hood with the loosies. But we will find out that carbon is in cigarettes. Carbon is in Pepsi. Carbon is in a 6-pack of malt liquor. Not even Budweiser or Heineken. We just gonna go malt liquor, like. So that whole thing flies out, flies out of the window. But those concepts still exist in the minds of the people. So remember, our biggest problem that we have is the uninformed being led and taught by the misinformed. Right? And the misinformed don't necessarily have a color. The misinformed, don't get caught in the debate and the debate, conversations and propaganda. Ignorance doesn't have a color. Racism doesn't have a color, and misinformation doesn't have a color. Right? So, we have to deal with it wherever we find it. You know what I'm saying? So in the holistic community, there are people that have those ideas as a part of their foundation. They haven't really they haven't really moved anywhere from that foundation yet. And then in the science space, right, where you see the monkey in the thumbnail, the reason the monkey's in the thumbnail is because the monkey is a part of the protein conversation. The monkey's a part of the protein conversation. And the monkey is a part of the debate conversation. That's why I say I am trolling just a little bit. But the monkey is a part of the protein conversation because, from the Darwinites, you hear a lot of this conversation that humans and chimps have 99% of the same DNA, right? Humans and chimps have 99% the same DNA. So that means based on that fact alone, right? That fact alone, right? We could make sure we get some air quotes on that fact, right? Based on that fact, we should be coding, for 99% the same proteins, because it is your DNA that builds all your body's proteins. Like that's literally what your DNA's job is, right? So when we have a conversation of protein, depending on how deep we go in the conversation, at some point, like if we're going all the way down the rabbit hole, at some point, DNA becomes a part of the conversation. At some point, genes become a part of the conversation. Chromosomes become a part of the conversation because that's what those are for. That's what DNA is for. That is the primary purpose of DNA, is to code for proteins, right? And now cycling around to the book, the primary purpose of the book, the primary purpose of the book, is so we will have a better understanding of protein in a more science-based kind of, like in a more science-based, like reality kind of sense. Right? After these messages, we'll be right back. Man, I swear, I don't even think my thighs is all the way ready for prayer time right now. Sometimes I be cheating. Yeah. I'll tell y'all what I be doing too. Sometimes I just do something. Like I make sure I spend the whole time exercising, but I might not be doing the exercises. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what? We're just gonna throw a little extra push-ups in there. Yeah, we're gonna throw a little extra push-ups in there. We're gonna throw a couple of extra heel raises. Them squats. We ain't gonna get to them squats 5 times today. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna get to them squats 5 times today. We might hit them joints in the AM, but we might have to substitute, Rest is very important. Just saying. Just saying. That's all I'm saying. You got to get that rest in. So don't be judging me. Now, if you're on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are subscribed. All right, which one should we do? Should we do the instructional version? Right? Where we show the exercises. Tika, which one should we do? Should we do this one or should we do this one where we show the anatomy in the body? I think we should do the one with the body. Tika done already started her prayer. She ain't paying me no attention. All right, we're going to do the one where it shows the body. You know why? Because we do this one and then people be looking at the lady doing her squats and then losing focus. So we're going to do this one.
Hey everybody, my name is Chaz.
Not really that interested, Chaz, respectfully.
Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our cells into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we got our blood flowing a little bit. Hold on. I gotta close up some screens. I had some screens open. I had to close up some screens. I had to close up some screens. Okay. Yeah, we gotta close up some screens. All right. Without amino acids, the body cannot heal, adapt, or maintain the integrity of its bones, glands, muscles, nerves, or heart. All right. Bro, come on, man. That's a classic right there. That's a classic. We got classics. We got errors too. You know what I'm saying? We got errors. We got errors. You know what I'm saying? That's from the Christ era, which is getting cold out. So, we might be, cracking those open pretty soon. But this is important, and this is a primary reason why we have this book and this course. Without amino acids, the body cannot heal, adapt, maintain the integrity of its bones, glands, muscles, nerves, or heart. Right? Bones, glands, muscles, nerves, or heart. I probably should have included I probably should have threw in organs. Yeah, I probably should have threw in organs. But I threw in muscles, and pretty much muscles covers organs and a little bit more, right? Muscles covers organs and a little bit more. Plus, we want to start to explore some things in these classes that are outside the normal conversation of protein, right? Because the normal conversation of protein is building skeletal muscle, right? Outside of that, the number one conversation, well, that's the number one. The number two conversation, I guess, surrounding protein would be, what's the best food to get your protein in, right? What's the best source of protein? And then I think the third most popular conversation on the internet regarding protein would be plant-based protein. Like, what are the best plant sources for protein? Or maybe they would have that same conversation, but with a slightly different title. Like, what would be the best, what would be the most complete plant-based sources of protein? Because that's still a thing floating around out there, that plant-based sources of protein are incomplete, right? Which is not exactly true, right? That is not exactly true. You have to remember that. Hold on, my hat ain't together. How I got the string up like that? Y'all didn't even say, yo, Doc, you gotta fix your hat. You know what I'm saying? All right. But you got to remember we had a discussion. I forgot what we was talking about, but in the conversation, I was saying that investors, like big, accredited like whales in the investing space, they create investments kind of like football strategy, where the quarterback is their primary moneymaker that they made their wealth off. And then they build like a offensive line to protect that quarterback. And then they run some plays with receivers and running backs to kind of help that quarterback continue to provide for the team, kind of strategy where like all their investments is about building around that main investment. You always have to remember the American infrastructure is the cowboy, right? The cowboy is still the boss in America, right? Even though it looks like a lot of things are changing, they're not. Like, some things change, but some things stay the same. The cowboy is still the boss when it comes to America, because the guys that had the beef became the guys with the oil. The guys with the beef money, the guys with the oil money, then became the financiers for everything else. So usually when you see people that are making a lot of money in other spaces, they're making money in other spaces because they have financing from beef people or oil people, or the space that they're in is a wide receiver or running back for the oil business or the beef business, right? So America is still the cowboy space. Cowboys still run America, right? Even Hollywood, which is the thing that, this is kind of the thing that Jewish people have in their back pocket, but they never pull it out to play the card. They have it in their back pocket, but they never pull the card out to play it. So when somebody like Kanye comes out and goes, yeah, Jewish people are running everything, And then you start looking around, checking stuff, and you go, oh, yeah, this is, based on this metric, it does look like there's truth to what Kanye's saying, right? But those people understand that they're not really running everything. A lot of times they're managing things, right? They're the middlemen. They're managing things. They don't really own those things. The owners are private investors, the financiers, the people who put up the bread. And a lot of times for entertainment, it is the beef and the oil people. It's the beef and the oil people who are the primary owners of most of the vegan businesses. They purchase the vegan businesses. So when you decide to not purchase beef products and you go purchase your organic vegan burger, that money's still going to the beef business, right? So Hollywood gets a lot of financing from the oil guys and the beef guys because somebody has to put the bread up for the movie budget, right? Somebody's got to put the bread up for, all of these entertainment stuff. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Oh, Tika is trolling me. She said she thought that was the style of the day. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. There we go. Good thing I have my grocery shopping list. Don't leave home without it.
So anyway, my point in saying all that was to say basically, there's a large portion of the protein conversation that's missing, right? There's a large portion of the protein conversation that's missing because most of the protein powder business is, come on, beef business. Wait a minute. No, Inky, the protein powder business is not beef business. The protein powder business ain't got nothing to do with beef farmers and cowboys. That's because y'all forgetting that beef is cow, right? So most of that whey protein, beef business, right? Just like milk is beef business, cheese, all of these things are a part of the beef industry. The beef industry has diversified, right? This is diversified. That's what I'm saying. The Cowboys and the quarterback and all the investments is there to, you got wide receivers, tight ends, you got fullbacks, tailbacks, split backs, you got all kinds of offensive players designed to help that quarterback do his thing. So when you go to the supermarket, or period, when you go get something to eat, chances are that's beef business. And the packaging that the food comes in is oil business. So the packaging is from the oil companies. The thing inside the package is from the beef companies, and oil and beef are from our cowboys, right? So most of the business is, again, that is going that way. And it's driven by those interests, right? So we have to create other conversations that we fund, right? Other conversations that we fund you know what I mean, that we fund, you know what I'm saying? Other conversations that we put up the bread for and do the research for, so we can have some other types of understandings on the protein conversation, right? Because in the health space, it's not about it's not just about plants or minerals, right? Or mineral elements, to be specific, right? Because without amino acids, right? Without amino acids, without hormones, without cytokines, without peptides, without hormones, right? Without enzymes, without pigments, right? Because all of these are amino acids, amino acid motifs, if you will, right? All of these are made out of amino acids, hormones, pigments, peptides, cytokines, all of these things, right? All of these things are made out of amino acids. Even the receptors on your cells, right? The receptors on your cells to allow minerals to go in and out. Those are amino acids. Your microtubules, your filaments, I mean, everything, almost like all of the structure in your body is composed of amino acids, right? In some shape, form, or fashion, right? Typically, you know, the structure is going to be aminos, and then you'll have lipids playing some sort of complementary, you know, fats will be playing some complementary role to the amino acid portion, right? But in the health space, we've gotten to a space where, yeah, fats is most time fat is, we're having weird conversations about fat because we forget we need fat. And then even the people whose whole program is fat don't actually have scientific conversations about fat, like the keto people, right? Keto people don't really talk enough about what fat is important for. They just speak of fat primarily in like being able to avoid carbohydrate metabolism and forcing your body into fatty acids and ketones. Like that's the main bulk of their conversation, right? So we want to be able to get to the healing part. And so you have to know that there's no such thing as healing. There's no such thing as healing without water and amino acids, right? There's no such thing as healing without water and amino acids. And then as a sidebar, another crazy thing with the keto people, well, I guess they get around that with the beta oxidation. Yeah, they kind of get around that with beta oxidation, but not really. You know what I'm saying? Because, let me fill you in. Because your body uses the Krebs cycle, right? Breaking down carbohydrates. Your body uses the breaking down of carbohydrates to build up amino acids. So there's a whole other process going on besides electrogenesis and aquagenesis, right? The production of water and the production of electricity and recycling ATP, right? So we got electrogenesis, aquagenesis, and recycling ATP. There's a lot more going on besides that in terms of the Krebs cycle, right? And beta oxidation feeds kind of into the Krebs cycle, right? But I seen you in there, Jack. I seen you in there, Jack. Put the prayer hands up during prayer time. So Hotep to the family, right? Hotep to the family. But we kind of needed to have this anyway, which is another reason why we couldn't really wait until the melanin is anabolic class is finished, because the discussion of proteins goes hand in hand with the discussion of anabolic, right? So as we're learning how the full scale anabolic system works, right? As we put catecholamines in their right place, and we put, just the neurochemistry in general in its proper perspective and its relationship to the body, and, the larger pigment system and the sensory system. Let's just say sensory system, right? Doesn't fully make sense unless we have parts, right? We're lining up, interactions, but we need parts, right? So we need to bring amino acids and protein in, because, well, that's the parts. That's the parts part. Right? We got to have that. So whether we're talking about muscles, hormones, new cells, whatever, right? Amino acids are going to play a key role in that. So we'll be discussing that over the next 10 to 15 weeks, right? 10 to 15 weeks. I'm still not sure how I want to structure, like how many weeks I want to make the protein discussion, right? I'm still not exactly sure. I'm going to be working on some things, because we're going to have, you know what I'm saying? We bringing in more classes, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure it out, right? But over the next X, we put X in for the variable, over the next X amount of weeks, okay, so you didn't even notice that. Over the next X weeks, we will be discussing all of these different conversations. All right. Amino acids are not abstract chemical trivia. They are the elemental language in which the body writes itself. Every heartbeat, every repair of a damaged blood vessel, every regeneration of the gut lining, every surge of immune activity is mediated through the assembly of amino acids into functional proteins. And here lies the deeper truth revealed by modern biochemistry. Not all amino acids must be eaten directly. The essential ones must indeed come from food, but the majority non-essential amino acids are made in-house from carbohydrates, fats, and nitrogen donors. These are not optional background players. They dominate the protein composition of the body and drive the bulk of daily protein turnover. over 60% of the amino acids cycling through your tissues each day are non-essential amino acids your body must constantly manufacture. All right. So what does that mean? Right? This is the introduction of the book that we're going through right now. Orientation. We're going through the introduction right now. We might make it into the first chapter, right? I'm not sure. All right, but we just have an orientation today, right? But we already have one of the big conundrums in the world of protein, right? And this is what I was getting the board ready for. Essential versus non-essential. Right? Essential versus non-essential. Right? Now, here is the slickness. Essential is the most, non-essential is the most vital. Which gets lost in the conversation because the fact that we call a group of amino acids the essential amino acids, without ever having to say it, it communicates the message that these are the important ones. The non-essential ones are non-important, right? Because we equate essential with importance, right? So the non-essential is the ones we don't have to worry about. Yeah, we don't have to worry about those. Right? We don't have to worry about those. Yeah, those are non-essential, right? But way more than half of our body's protein requirement comes from here, right? And so this opens up a few different doors, right? This opens up a few different doors, right? This opens up a few different doors, right? When we start to do extended dry fast, right? If we're doing an extended dry fast, which means we're not eating any food for longer than 24 hours, longer than 48 hours, right? Yeah, I say extended. Is anything, I'm going to go out on a limb. And in my opinion, I'm going to say an extended dry fast or an extended water fast. An extended dry fast or water fast is anything that goes past like 36 hours. Yeah, I'm going to go 36 hours. I'm going to go 36 hours. After 36 hours, you are officially playing games. You are officially playing games. And the reason why I say that is because these non-essential amino acids, your body doesn't like make them out of thin air, right? Your body's primary source for non-essential amino acids is the carbohydrates and the fats, right? The Krebs cycle. Primarily your the carbohydrates, which is usually the main thing that people cut out when fasting, right? So it's much better to do fasting in spots. Right? Like say, for instance, you want to fast for 7 days. right? What I would say is fast every other day for 14 days. If you want to get 7 days worth of not eating in, right, I would say go, do it for 14 days, fast every other day, right? And obviously the days that you cheat, make up a day here or there. You know what I'm saying? Or go, something in that space, right? But don't go that long without refeeding, right? Because you're missing a lot of nutrition. So when I sat down to write out what the 40-day fast would be initially, it was about making sure that we got the benefits of calorie restriction, right? That we got the benefits of autophagy, that we got the benefit of creating better living habits, dietary patterns. But at the same time, we didn't want to hurt ourselves in terms of missing nutrients, right? Because at the end of the day, if we're fasting or we're changing up our diet, usually we want to get healthier. Well, you don't get healthier by missing out on nutrients. And you definitely don't get healthier by, like, for instance, most people, a lot of people, they go through periods where they're quote unquote eating crazy, me included, right? We all go through periods where we're eating crazy, because eating crazy is not something that is, you never get above eating crazy, right? Because the better your diet gets, it just changes your definition of eating crazy, right? So if you're already eating McDonald's and whatever, you might consider eating crazy to go a few days with ramen noodles and I don't know, store brand sodas or whatever the case may be. But everybody has their thing. You know what I'm saying? So even a person that might be vegan, they might feel like eating crazy is now they spent the week on transition food. So they're still eating vegan, but they're eating, a lot of vegan mac and cheese and vegan chicken, vegan this, vegan that, instead of actually having like salads and stir fries and, boiled grains and roots and things like that. They're having a lot of freezer food. So for them, they're eating crazy. Or people that might eat meat, but they eat high quality, right? They're eating farm fresh. They're not buying anything from the supermarket. They eat farm fresh, or they go to the butcher, right? That's really nutritious, in the meat space. They get fresh meat. Well, by the time they start going to the supermarket, oh man, last couple of weeks I've been eating out of the supermarket. So they're getting meat from out the supermarket. They feel like they're eating crazy, right? Because they know if you get meat from the butcher, there's a lot less chemicals you have to deal with, right? Because when you get meat, yes, there's a certain amount of chemicals that goes into the animal directly, right? Like medicines and whatever. But packaging is a whole nother space. Packaging for meat is a whole nother space. They got to put all kinds of stuff on there to make sure the meat doesn't get you sick, right? Because there's a certain amount of rat droppings and feces and all kinds of stuff that gets mixed into the packaging, and stuff to make it look fresh, even though it's months old, and all kinds of stuff goes. So a person that eats meat, they know the difference, right? So just by them going to the supermarket, they're like, oh, I've been eating crazy the last few weeks. So just hopefully you get the idea. No matter how good our diet gets, we always have a version of eating crazy, right? And when we do that, we usually want to respond, right? We usually want to respond by tightening up, right? And tightening up can be less calories, you know, going on a fast, going on, you know, just whatever. But usually the main goal is to be healthier, right? And so I just want you to know that your body's not designed in such a way that nutrient deficiency equals healthier. There's no version of that. There's no version of that. There's no version of nutrient deficiency means healthier. There's no version of that. I'm going to make sure I say that again. There is no version of nutrient deficiency equaling healthier. So you have to keep that in your mind when you're going through whatever you're going through, right? Or maybe you've been studying, you know, Dr. Inky for some years and Sabi or Dr. Africa or whoever. Jewel Program, Queen Afua, David Wolf. Is that guy's name David Wolf? Why do I have a David Wolf in my mind? There's a wolf in the vegan space. I think I'll be studying so much different science. Sometimes it'd be running together. Yeah, it'd be running together. You know what I'm saying? Like just, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a space where on the internet, you know, for popularity purposes, people step outside of their comfort zone or their area of expertise. You know what I'm saying? Because we respect terms like scientists. So we feel like a scientist is just a genius at everything and they just know everything. Or a doctor is a genius at everything and they know everything. You know, I even see the lawyer space heating up, right? So there's law tube, like lawyer YouTube sector. And they getting popular because they're popular, you know, court cases and whatever. But I'm now seeing the lawyers discussing other subjects or whatever the case may be because of that stigma. We feel like if a person's really good at something, they must be like really good at everything. And I always try to say that is not the case, right? That is not the case. LeBron is good at basketball, but trust me, if you try to have LeBron fix your car, you probably won't make it half a block. Right? You probably won't make it half a block. Man, that's what I'm talking about. Shout out to Osborne too. Osborne is working himself out like a wild man. So we haven't seen him in the chat in a minute, but that's where he's at. Osborne is awake for 16 hours a day, and for 15 of those hours, Osborne is exercising. Hold up. Excuse you. We are 63 deep in class right now, not 36. We are 63 deep. We are 63 deep. And look at that. Yeah, let me make that bigger so we can, let me just show you that there. So we are 63 deep. Man, where's the window? Why isn't it not showing the window? Oh, man. Okay, I'll take the picture again. Dang, okay, there we go. Boop. Let that fade off. Yeah, we 63 deep. Don't be lowering our number down. Don't be lowering our number down. Yeah, we at the 63. You know what I'm saying? We doing something. Yeah, we doing something. We out here in these streets. We out here in these streets. But definitely, the sentiment is correct. Let's go ahead and click the thumbs up. Click the thumbs up. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. Y'all been watching these videos all the time and you ain't hit the subscribe yet. And then, yo, you know what's crazy? 2 people, I asked them that. These is homeboys though. You know what I'm saying? They was like, yo, I don't be seeing your videos no more. I'm like, did you subscribe to the channel? Oh, it normally just pop up. You got to subscribe to make it. I'm like, yeah, you got to subscribe. So subscribe. If you in Twitter, hit the repost. You know what's crazy about YouTube and Twitter? YouTube is way easier to hit the like button than to actually share the video, because you got to like copy the link and then open up another social media and post it over there. You know what I'm saying? Twitter is way easier. You just hit the repost and then bam. But it's harder to like and subscribe, right? Because when it reposts, it goes on that person's page. But typically, the people that start watching it, they don't come to your page to follow your page. They just watch your video over there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm learning a little social media science from HJ. You know what I'm saying? I'm picking up a few things. But I appreciate y'all, though. I definitely appreciate y'all. So this is important, though. Back to the work, right? On this side, we do have the aromatic amino acids, right? We do have the aromatics over here, right? And the aromatics are always a subject of conversation. Now, the people that have been rocking with me the longest, they know one of my pet peeves is when somebody's talking about me, but I am personally not smart enough to know that I am the subject of discussion, right? So sometimes that happens and we don't know because we're not able to connect dots, right? We're not able to connect dots. So aromatic amino acids kind of falls into that pocket, right? Because in the health space, we often hear people having conversations about the chemicals they put on the fruits and the vegetables, right? The chemicals that they're spraying down the plants with. And the chemicals wind up obviously in the plants because they're spraying them on the plants, but they also wind up in the meat because a lot of time, whether you're dealing with chicken or beef or whatever, somehow, the animals are feeding on the plants themselves, right? Well, typically, the area in plants that is targeted by the chemicals, whether it's glyphosate or whatever it is the same area in the plants that produces aromatic amino acids, not just for the plant, but for the entire food chain. The entire food chain relies on the plants to produce aromatic amino acids, right? We don't produce those. We don't produce those. We do have some ability with like phenylalanine and tyrosine kind of thing. But aromatic amino, in fact, In fact, you know what? I should write this down because I believe this debunks Darwin right here. Aromatic amino acid. You know what? I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write that down and put that in my book. It's probably not going to be in my presentation, but it's definitely going to go in my book if I could find me a pen. Because humans would have been evolved the ability to make aromatic amino acids. That right there is a dagger. That's, yeah, all that evolving new traits and blah, 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 blah. We would have been figured out a way to make aromatic amino acids. Yo. Shout out to Ears to the Street. Come on, let's go. I know he's listening every time he come in with the super chat. Yeah, with the super chat. Yeah, with the super chat. Yeah, with the super chat. Hold on, I gotta find me an ink pen though. Seriously, I'm seriously about to write this down. Yeah, I'm about to seriously go write this down because we gotta have that. See, they forgot that. Ooh, they forgot that. I gotta make sure we put that. Yeah, I gotta make sure I put that in the book somewhere. So just remember when you get the book and you read the book and you see that in there somewhere, I just thought of that just now while I was talking to y'all. I just thought of that just now talking to y'all because that is an absolute fact. That's a part of the whole conversation about like the out of Africa theory. And we moved out of Africa and we lost our pigment because we weren't able to get enough vitamin D and folic acid and blah, blah, blah because of the pigment, you know, so our body had to get rid of pigment and woo. We forget that pigment is also protein, right? Pigment is also protein, right? This is the reason why when Dr. Sebi was saying there's no such thing as protein, he had to double down and say there's no such thing as melanin, right? So, yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, right? When the plants get chemical down, right? When the plants get chemical down, it ruins aromatic amino acids for the entire animal kingdom, right? It ruins, at least for the animal kingdom, the part of the food chain that is dependent upon whatever those plants are for aromatic amino acids, right? And aromatic amino acids are crucial for everything from neurotransmitters to hormones to pigment. You don't make any type of pigment without aromatic amino acids, right? That's melanin, whether eumelanin, pheomelanin, neuromelanin, hemoglobin, myoglobin, neuroglobin, cytoglobin, melanopsin, rhodopsin, cytopsin, neuropsin, like doesn't matter the pigments, right? You need aromatic amino acids for the formulation of pigments, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting. We didn't realize that it was going to affect, or maybe we did. Like if we want to go into a dark place, if we want to get into a dark place with our conspiracy theories, we can go there. You know what I'm saying? But I know that the general population didn't think that watermelon seeds turning from black to white would have an impact on mental health, right? And maybe there's still people that don't make that connection, right? There may still be people that don't make that connection. But that process of watermelon seeds going black to white was not limited to watermelons or watermelon seeds. It was a produce-wide phenomena by, flooding the plants with chemicals that attack the Shikimate pathway. Matter of fact, let me pull that up. Let's hit the Google demons, because I mention this from time to time, but it's important enough that I mention it all the time and give you my mnemonic for it, right? My mnemonic is dashikis and ma'at. That's how I remember stuff, right? Back in the days, I learned about memory mansions in your brain, and you fix things to other things that you already remember so that it kind of stays in there, whatever. So I still use mnemonic devices for, stuff. But so that's how I remember that, when nobody was mentioning the Shikimate pathway or Shikimate pathway. Yeah, when I first seen it, the first thing popped in my mind was dashikis and ma'at. So somehow I was able to remember this pathway for aromatic amino acids, which leads to pigment. Yeah. Don't judge me. Okay. Y'all might be using Drake and Kendrick as mnemonics. Right? That ain't my business. Right? Just saying, don't judge me. Okay. If you look at the spelling, you'll see, where I got the dashiki ma'at pathway, right? The Shikimate pathway is a metabolic process in bacteria, fungi, plants, and some parasites that produces aromatic amino acids, phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan, folates, and other aromatic compounds from carbohydrate precursors, right? That's interesting. And folates are also in this space, right? Going back to my attack on Darwin, Interesting. All right. Anyway, it does not occur in animals, making it a key target for herbicides such as glyphosate, which disrupt this pathway in plants and thus controlling weed growth. In plants, the pathway contributes significantly to the production of vital compounds like lignin and flavonoids. Right? Now, before we go too far down conspiracy theory road, when we see this, let me put that back up there. When we see this part, it's a positive meaning to it, even though it looks like it could be diabolical. Where it says it does not occur in animals, making it a key target for herbicides, right? That sounds like it could be diabolical, but it's not. What they mean is they could develop poison for the plants that won't necessarily poison people or pets, right? Even though we didn't really think about aromatic amino acids. We didn't think about how if even the number drops of how much aromatic aminos and compounds, right? We throw folate in there, right? But once that amount drops, even if we're still getting some, right? But once that amount drops and our body now has to manage a lower amount, how will that affect pigment production, right? Forget about going outside to get sunlight. We all live inside the house now. Forget about the sun, right? Think about pigment production in terms of, neuromelanin. Think about pigment production in terms of your eyesight, right? Think about catecholamine production in terms of your mental health, right? Think about pigment and catecholamines in terms of your heart health, right? Because your heart has melanocytes, right? Your heart relies on melanocytes to properly beat, right? Your heart relies on neurons for proper rhythm and excitation, right? So we didn't really think about the possibility or the probability, right? Remember, make sure y'all have that book. Where is that book at? I don't even know where that book is at. Y'all better make sure y'all got that book. Where is that book? No. Is this it? No, this ain't it, but it looks like this. This is not the book, but it looks like this book. Where are you? No. Man, it look. Oh, here we go. Right here. Bam. It kind of looked like this book. Yeah, it kind of looked like this book. This book right here. You gotta have this book because everything health-wise, right? The title of this book is Ma'at or Ma'ath, like the pun on Ma'at and math, because Ma'at is the origin of math, right? Sequence. But probability and statistics, cardiochemistry, Ebers Papyrus, Dr. Code, right? And the reason being is because a part of, well, for some of us anyway, right? Some of us, we in the health space, we trying to learn some health stuff because we want to know that language, right? We want to know that doctor language, that doctorese, right? So although we have a book on doctorese, like body language, learning all those terms that doctors use amongst each other that we be sitting there not knowing what they're talking about. What I didn't put in that book is the math, right? The probability, right? Because everything doctors do is based on probabilities, Everything. Everything is based on probabilities. Period. Even lawyers, right? Even lawyers and stockbrokers, right? And what's interesting, those are the number 1, number 2, and number 3 hardest tests to pass. At least it used to be, right? The bar exam, the doctor test, and then the Series 7. They was all ranked as top 3 tests to pass. But the underlying undercurrent of all of them is probability, right? Period. Probability. That's what the Rain Man was doing in that movie. You know, I'm almost 50, so I don't know. If you're under 35, you may not have seen Rain Man with, was that Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise? I think it was Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. Yeah, but that was a classic. You know what I'm saying? And what he was autistic, and he was able to count cards. So he could beat any casino playing cards. But the whole concept was he wasn't beating the casino because he was a good gambler. He was beating the casinos because he was good at counting cards. He was good at measuring probabilities very quickly, right? Because he knew how many cards were in a deck, which gave him the count for how many cards, you know, you got 4 of this, 4 of that. You got, you know, certain amount of red, certain amount of black. He could count the probability of what the next card flip would be. Once he looked at what everybody's cards were on the table, he knew what cards were still in the deck. And by knowing what cards were still in the deck and what cards had played the last hand and the hand before that, he could count the probability quickly on what cards were most likely to be the next cards to be dealt. And so using that, he was able to win way more than he was losing. And so that was like a whole backdrop to the movie. Anyway, that's what doctors do. Doctors, you come into the hospital, right? Medical doctors and surgeons anyway. You come into a hospital, they get a, they run some tests on you. They listen to you first, they listen to what you're saying you're dealing with, symptoms. And then they run some tests. Then they measure the symptoms and known causes of those symptoms against what the tests show. And if your symptoms line right up with what the tests show, they just go right to problem solving, prescription or surgery. Yeah. If your symptoms do not match the test results, then they might come back and tell you, we probably need to run some more tests because the tests were inconclusive, but that's inconclusive based on the symptoms that you're presenting, right? The symptoms that you're presenting. So your honesty factors in to the probability of what the outcome is going to be, right? And so there's a probability with medicines. Right. Let's say that the symptoms match the diagnosis or the test. They can see what their test results were, how that matches up with your symptoms. And they go, all right, well, here, you should be able to take this for 2 weeks and be cool. Or you should be able to stop eating this for, whatever, like you have an allergy to this or whatever it comes down to. Those solutions, I'm not going to say a patchwork, but those solutions are on probabilities, because even a medication that is pretty successful, that works, it doesn't work for everybody. And that doesn't just only apply to medicine, that applies to herbs, right? Even a herb that is very good for whatever, that doesn't mean it's going to work like that in every single person. Because every single person is very different on the inside, right? Every single person has the same way we have unique fingerprints, we have footprints, our lip prints, our eyes. There's a lot of different external things that way. I think it's 9 different things that are unique about humans. Let's go to the Google demons. How many unique traits do humans have, like fingerprints? Okay, that's a very good answer right there. That's a very good answer. That's pretty good right there from the Google demons. See, okay, yeah, because this is the usual right here. The usual right here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. Yeah, most websites, they give you 9. And they're giving you those 9, or they're giving you like 10. But they're opening the door up right here with a unknown and vast number of unique biological traits, right? And because there's an unknown, unique number of biological traits, we can't assume that every herb or every medicine will work the same in each person, because you only have to have one small difference, and that will throw off the biochemical process. Because it's not like say for instance, if you got a pain in your arm and you take a medicine or you take an herb, the medicine or herb, once you chew it up, it just goes right to your arm and like magically vanishes the pain. It doesn't do that. Whatever you eat or take or is injected into you or whatever the case, however you get it in, whether you sipping some herbs, like right now I got a big, that's all hot herbs right there with a little bit of blue magic mixed in. All of that stuff goes in your body, and then there are dozens, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of biochemical reactions that take place. And they all have to take place in a very particular sequence, ma'at sequence, in order for them to be effective. And then you have to maintain that sequence for a certain amount of weeks, months, etc., in order to permanently change whatever that, or get rid of whatever that problem was, that symptom was, right? So probability is everything. Probability is everything. So one of the things we talk about in the probability book is how probabilities are generated, but also how learning all of this information allows you to take control of the probabilities, right? So if somebody goes to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, you got 6 weeks to live, right? That is a probability. That's not like a thing written in concrete or written in stone. You got 6 weeks to live. No, that's a probability, right? But a part of the marketing of doctors and the health system is that they know, like you can trust them. They know everything. If they say it, write it in stone, because this is a fact. It's not. It's just a probability, right? It's just a probability. And if you understand what are the factors that are going into that probability, you can then, you might not be able to change all of the factors, but you can definitely change some of those factors. And changing some of those factors might change, from you living 6 weeks to maybe you living 6 months. Or maybe it changes it from you living 6 weeks to living 6 years. Or maybe it changes it from you living 6 weeks to you back with everybody else. You don't know how long you're going to live. You could get hit by a bus next weekend. Just saying. Right? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So understanding probability is understanding health. because that's what we're doing with all of these different things. All of these different things that we're doing is because we want to grab control of probabilities, right? So we're exercising to control some probabilities, whether it's, circulation, cardiovascular, muscle density, strength, right? We're controlling some probabilities. We're changing our diet so that we can control some probabilities. All of these things, right? We have the Declaration of Independence book, right? So you can get an idea of how exercising plays a role in, how your DNA operates, right? And some dietary stuff as well. But that's primarily, written about genetic expression, right? But that's because we want to be able to. Now, you're not going to be able to swap out a gene, right? But how we exercise and how we eat absolutely has the ability to turn off some genes that are turned on and to turn on some genes that are turned off, right? Those are all things that contribute to specific probabilities, right? Or if your mom or your dad died from breast cancer or heart attack, and they go, well, chances are, you see that word? Chances are, because your parents had this, you might have this. Chances are, right? Chances. Probability says, right? Probability says, right? So what are the other things, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, man, we went down a super side quest right there. We got real side questy right there. Yeah, we went down a super side quest right there. And what we supposed to be talking about? Aromatic amino acids. Yo, but anyway, the amino acid and protein conversation is going to be full of side quests, right? That's why I try to say these videos, as we're doing these classes, these videos are to accompany the books, but by no stretch of the imagination can these videos replace the material in the book. There's some material in the book we'll just never get to. Sometimes we'll spend 2-3 hours on side quests, right? But it's all about giving you a much more well-rounded view of your body, right? And that's the most beautiful aspect of the ability to see, right? We don't really understand how special that is, right? The ability to see, the ability to observe, right? Once we observe, we could take part in the creation of the outcome. That's probability. The double slit experiment is partially probability, right? Waves of potential collapsing into an outcome, right? Based on observers, right? That's probability, right? And so as we learn the processes in our body, now we get to observe, right? We get to participate, right? All right. So carbohydrates, key player in the non-essential amino acids game. What else we got? All right. What we have uncovered here makes the danger. I'm trying not to throw the OG under the bus. All right. We should now understand obesity, diabetes, and poor circulation directly choke off non-essential amino acid production by starving the metabolic pathways that convert carbs and fats into amino acid backbones. This is not just about muscle loss. It is about the inability to repair the heart after a heart attack, to rebuild the brain after a stroke, to replace damaged collagen in the arteries, or to restore immune protein during infection. We have mapped the non-essential amino acid cardiac salvage flow, showing how carbohydrates, fats, plant-derived nitrogen donors, and exercise merge into a single living blueprint for cardiac recovery. We have shown how microdosed movement, the prayer system, right? Some people still ask, what's that on that part of the board over there? Whenever somebody asks that, I know they must have just started watching us for the first time. We could use a little love though, right? Right? It could use a little bit of love. But you know what? I be sentimental. So I don't want to erase it because then I erased it. I don't know. I need to erase it. See, look at that. It don't even want to erase. That's kind of cold right there. All right, so we just going right on top of it again. Because it don't even want to erase. And then by the time I write on it 1,000 times, I'm gonna need bleach to get this off of here. Right, but here's our microdose exercise routines. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. That looks a little bit better. It's still, you don't know what that is if you don't know what that is, but I don't know. In my mind, I think I did something just now. In my mind, I think I did something just now. All right, so we have shown how microdose movement and enhanced blood flow accelerate this process, feeding oxygen and nutrient streams into the very sites of protein assembly. We have demonstrated how melanocortin activation sparked by inspiration, vision, and physical engagement further amplify these repair cycles. All right. So, key takeaway from here, right? Obesity, diabetes, and poor circulation. Now, for those of us that have been dealing with any or all of those issues, obesity, diabetes, or cardiovascular issues, right? Those three things, any one of them, but they all usually lead, first of all, they all lead to the others. If you're dealing with poor circulation, chances are you're going to be headed down obesity road or diabetes road. If you're dealing with diabetes, you'll be headed towards obesity or cardiovascular problems. If you're dealing with obesity, you'll be headed towards diabetes or cardiovascular. So not only do those three lead to each other, but on top of them, they have the, risk factors for the same, bigger bad guys or boogeymen like cancer and autoimmune and this and that and brain, all the other big, things that we need to be scared of, right? And the thing that they all have in common is this: quiet is kept, right? Is that they all inhibit your non-essential amino acid production. And anything that slows down this non-essential amino acid production is going to have very, very big consequences. Very big consequences, right? So it's not just a matter of amino acids for hypertrophy, right? You got 50 billion cells that your body has to build from scratch every day. Right? 50 billion. All of them need to be outfitted with a wide variety of non-essential, right? I mean, if we're dealing with cardiovascular issues, you got to know that all of your blood supply is smooth muscle tissue, right? All of your blood supply, smooth muscle tissue, right? You require nitrogen for circulation, right? So even though nitric oxide technically is not going to be considered like an amino acid, peptide, protein, something in that space, but it is nitrogen, right? And nitrogen is the root. Nitrogen's the root for non-essential amino acids. So when Chase was little, this is when he was around 4 years old, maybe a little bit younger. I think I started him out a little bit younger, maybe about 3. As soon as he could talk, he wanted to do he wanted to teach, but I think maybe around 3 or 4 was the first time I could get him on the stage. But he had his whole little spiel, right? And his little spiel, he used to come on the stage and do, like it was like a 2-man act. You know what I'm saying? So I could walk him through getting on stage and doing his little thing, right? So I would ask him, what's the thing that people need most that they'll die without? And then he'll say oxygen. And then I'd be like, okay, what else do people need? And then he'd be like, water. I'd be like, okay, how do you get water if you only have oxygen? He'd be like, you got to add hydrogen to the oxygen. I'm like, okay. What else do people need in order, to live? If they have their oxygen and they have their water, what's next? He'd be like, well, they need something to eat. I'm like, okay. So if you only have oxygen and hydrogen, how do people make something to eat? Well, they need, carbon. You add carbon to the oxygen and the hydrogen, and now they got carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables. So I'm like, okay, that's good right there. So now we got oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon. But what if people want to get like big muscles or they want to get strong? You know what I'm saying? Like, well, they need protein. So you got to add nitrogen to the carbon, the hydrogen, and the oxygen. And then you got protein. And so that was like, then, he get his little applause and I get him off the stage, and then boom. But we would have went through, the basic chain, CHON, CHON. That's how they put it in textbooks, CHON, right? The main, most important 4 elements. And that's the reason why those 4 elements are the most important, right? Carbohydrates, protein, oxygen, water. Right. So your body is largely composed out of those elements because they make up the stuff that your body's made out of. Right. So you have to have the nitrogen to go with, in the same way as we did that, we go carbohydrates, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and fat is also in that same space. Right. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We add nitrogen. And that's literally what your body does. Your body takes fats and carbohydrates and makes all of your non-essential amino acids by adding nitrogen. By adding nitrogen to, the metabolites. By adding nitrogen to the metabolites. So whenever you have a problem with circulation, that means that, you're not getting stuff to the cells, right? Whenever you have in diabetes, whenever you have in circulation issues, that means you're not getting stuff to the cells. Whenever you have a diabetes issue, that means that you're having a problem with the Krebs cycle, right? You're having a problem breaking down carbohydrates and fats. So if you're having a problem breaking down carbohydrates and fats, that means you also are having a problem building non-essential amino acids. If you're having a problem building non-essential amino acids, that may show up somewhere as muscle weakness or, neurotransmitter, like brain fog, or just a wide variety of places it might show up that your doctor may not draw the dot. He may not put two and two together and go, okay, well, this is because of this. You know what I'm saying? But you need to be able to know this is a possibility, right? This is a part of the contributing factors that could be determining, right, my probabilities, my outcome, right? Obesity, same thing, right? Obesity, same thing, right? Just opposite. Instead of having a problem with metabolizing stuff, your body is having a storage issue, right? You're storing too much stuff. You're storing up the carbohydrates and the fats. And so in that case, you're not metabolizing as much as you should as well. So anything that leads to metabolism issues leads to non-essential amino acid issues, right? Our microbiome is different. It's unique, right? So our microbiome contributes silently to all of these necessary processes, because our microbiome helps us break things down. And make secondary and tertiary nutrients that we need, right? So a wide variety of things. All right, what else we got? Who already had this book already? And this is the first time they opening it up. Yeah, because whoever you are, I'm going to fight you. Whoever you are, we're going to shoot the one-on-one. Me and you, we're going to scrap. Right? All right. So anyway, now we have added yet another revelation. Plants, especially bitter herbs and deeply pigmented foods, do not merely alkalize the body in some vague way. Their alkaloids and pigments deliver nitrogen and molecular backbones directly into the machinery of non-essential amino acid synthesis. This means they literally feed the biochemical engines that rebuild the human frame inside out. The very pigments that give plant their colors are also, in many cases, the molecular bridge between dietary energy and the living protein scaffolds of our tissues. Right? So very important. Now we have yet another reason, right, to make sure whether we eat meat or not. Well, forget about the people eating meat. The people eating meat going to be just fine. Yeah, they're not going to have an amino acid issue necessarily. But our vegan folks, you need to make sure, right, that you're getting a good amount of pigments in every day. Right? Even if it's just having, $2 or $3 worth of your favorite fruit, whatever that is. Right? Even if it's just having $2, $3 of your favorite fruit, whether that's some peppers or tomatoes or apples, tangerines, whatever. At the bare minimum, you got to get that color into your diet, right? You got to get that color into your diet. All right. Protein is the architecture of life. Amino acids are the bricks, the beams, and the repair crews that keep the architecture standing, right? The repair crews. Things like sirtuins and, when we talk about mitophagy and autophagy and all of that kind of stuff, all of that work is in the protein universe, right? All of that work is in the protein universe, right? So when we're talking, whether we're talking about protein structures being broken down to recycle, or whether we're talking about the agents that do the breaking down, right? The organelles, the enzymes, all of those things are in the protein universe. When we eat, move, breathe in ways the fuel, when we eat, move, and breathe in ways that fuel amino acid synthesis, especially non-essential amino acid production, we are not burning calories, sugar, or fat. We are building the body anew, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via electrogenesis. We are reconstructing the heart, fortifying skeletal muscle, repairing bone, and renewing the immune grid. The faster the metabolism, the faster the construction. The greater the inspiration and circulation, the greater the reach of the builders. And to know how to feed, accelerate, and direct that substance is to hold the keys to health, resilience, and longevity beyond what most of us have dared to imagine. All right. Top 10 critical roles of non-essential amino acids in human health: cardiac repair and remodeling, skeletal muscle recovery and hypertrophy, immune system defense and regeneration, neurotransmitter and neuromodulator production, gut lining and digestive enzyme renewal, detoxification and antioxidant defense, hormone and receptor protein construction, continuous organ and bone maintenance, right? Why are we going through those, right? Because I want to give you an idea specifically of what exactly the non-essential amino acids are doing, right? And we'll circle back, right? I'm gonna read that list to you again with more detail, right? Actually, I'm gonna read it to you again and then again, right? So I'm gonna read it to you again now that you have a perspective on why I read it to you the first time, right? So, cardiac repair and remodeling, skeletal muscle recovery and hypertrophy, immune system defense and regeneration, neurotransmitter and neuromodulator production, detoxification and antioxidant defense, hormone and receptor protein construction, melanocortin system activation and flow enhancement, continuous organ and bone maintenance. All right. Now, I'm going to go back and read those again to you with a little bit more detail, right? Cardiac repair and remodeling. Non-essential amino acids like glutamine, alanine, and proline are the molecular scaffolding for rebuilding the heart after damage, whether from a heart attack, congestive heart failure, or arrhythmia. They form collagen in heart valves, elastin in arteries, and structural proteins in cardiomyocytes. Without these non-essential amino acids being produced continuously from carbohydrates, fats, and nitrogen donors, the heart's tissue repair slows down, scarring increases, and function declines. Right? Skeletal muscle recovery and hypertrophy. After exercise, especially hypertrophy training, non-essential amino acids like alanine, glycine, and glutamate flood into the repair sites. They rebuild actin and myosin filaments, restore sarcoplasmic structure, and even influence satellite cell activation. Satellite cells are stem cells, right? Skeletal muscle can grow larger and stronger only if non-essential amino acids are produced on demand. Essential amino acids alone can't do this job, right? Collagen synthesis for structural integrity. The majority of the human protein matrix, tendons, ligaments, skin, fascia, and vessel walls, is collagen, dominated by glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. These non-essential amino acids are manufactured internally, meaning that a metabolic slowdown, right, from obesity, diabetes, or poor circulation, literally weakens the body's tensile strength at every level. Immune system defense and regeneration. Non-essential amino acids like glutamine and asparagine are the prime fuels for immune cells, particularly lymphocytes and macrophages. They are consumed in massive quantities during infection or inflammation. When I say consumed, I don't mean that you are consuming a lot of them. I mean that your body's supply is consumed very fast by your bone marrow and your white blood cells themselves in order so that they can fight the bad guys, right? All right. They are consumed in massive quantities during infections or inflammation, driving protein synthesis for antibodies, cytokines, and repair enzymes. Without continuous non-essential amino acid production, immune response is slowed and recovery from illness is prolonged. Neurotransmitter and neuromodulator production. Glutamate, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter, right? It's an on switch, right? Glutamate turns things on, right? And you have to be careful because glutamate, like MSG, right? Glutamate is like, we're not even going to get into irresponsible adults, but we're just going to say children, right? We're just going to say children because children don't pay no bills. Children don't pay no bills. So what you talking about, Doc? How does children that don't pay no bills have anything to do with glutamate? Because like children that don't know about paying bills, right? They will walk through your house and you will literally be able to follow them through your house by all the lights that's turned on. Every room you walk in is empty. No humans are in there, but the lights is on. So you're going through your whole house, tracking them down. The breadcrumbs is light switches that's turned on just for no apparent reason. Like, hey, go turn off all them lights. Go turn off all them. What do you keep leaving all these lights? Turn off all them. That's what glutamate does in your brain. Glutamate just runs through your brain, just flipping on switch, just flipping on switches. Now, this is where we got a book. We got a book for it, right? This is where we got a book for it, right? I'm trying to find a copy. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is where the glymphatic system, this is the glymphatic system book, right? So if you don't have this, go get this. But this is where your glymphatic system comes into play. Where your glymphatic system is supposed to be cleaning your brain out every night, right? When it cleans your brain, it specifically helps to drain, excess just stuff from the astrocytes and the glial cells in the brain, because the astrocytes and the glial cells is like the secretaries and the assistants for the neurons, right? So typically, astrocytes and glial cells will be like nannies. They'd be able to, turn off some stuff and, hey, hold on, we got to shut this down. They'll be able to chase the children for you, right? Without that, glutamate will run, go overexcite your brain. Anyway, so you balance that out with GABA, right? GABA, GABA, GABA. About 10, 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I've been doing this a long time. But there was a time, anyway, when GABA was on TV. They was promoting it. They figure out something, they promoting it. So they was, it's in stores. You go get you some, just like glutamate in stores. You can go buy you some glutamate supplements. You can go buy you some GABA supplements. But GABA is the off switch. GABA is the off switch. So glutamate turns stuff on, GABA turns stuff off. It's the off switch, right? Now, the secret with GABA is that GABA not only is in the neurotransmitter business, right? But GABA, this is how slick your body is. And glutamate too, to a lesser extent, but glutamate also plays a role in this. Glutamate and GABA is both in the sugar business. Both of them is in the sugar business, right? So you have to remember that. Glutamate and GABA is both in the sugar business. Yeah, glutamate, switching stuff on, right? When you turn stuff on, it needs power, right? So glutamate turns on the switches in the brain, more sugar, right? GABA turning stuff off, right? Less sugar, right? Less sugar, right? So it's important because when I went down the GABA rabbit hole, right, I find out that GABA is like low key, like it's like it functions with insulin. It functions with insulin. So if you have diabetes or obesity or circulation issues, chances are, if you have any type of insulin issues, chances are that you might have GABA issues. So you could wind up having a glutamate issue in your brain, right? But not because of too much glutamate, because you don't have enough GABA, right? Because when I went down this rabbit hole, matter of fact, let me just show you. Let me see what the Google demons is talking about. Okay. See that? And I just typed in beta cells producing GABA, right? You see what the Google demons? Look. The pancreatic beta cells produce and secrete GABA to regulate insulin secretion and maintain islet homeostasis. I'm telling you, super duper cheat code. Super duper cheat code. Yo, that's a super cheat code to the point where even now, you know what I'm saying? Like if you got a doctor and you ask your doctor, the doctor might, so many doctors I had conversations with, and I'm like, well, you do know that GABA, I'm like, no, GABA don't got nothing to do with insulin. I'm like, what you talking about, Willis? Surely you know that GABA regulates insulin, and no. GABA ain't got nothing to do. That's a neurotransmitter for the brain. I'm like, look it up and then get back. Look it up and then get back to the doctor with the gold teeth. Yeah. Get back to the doctor with the gold teeth after you figure that out. Because I live in that space that you don't have time for, right? See, that's the thing about a medical doctor and a surgeon. They don't have time to learn much new stuff because they usually have 15 to 20 people, but they only have time every day for 10 to 12 people. So by the time they get home, they don't have time for finding out new things, new information that may have come out since they graduated school. They don't have time to find out things that may not have been taught in their school, right? They come out of school, they go into the emergency room, and that's it. They're working with what they know, right? So again, my euphoric vision of a future health system for America is not necessarily where naturopaths or holistic people take over and we get rid of medical doctors or surgeons. You know, my euphoric dream is where everybody's working together. You know what I'm saying? The naturopaths, the holistic folks working with the medical doctors, the surgeons, and then somewhere in there, we got some weightlifters and we got some personal trainers snuggled up in the mix somewhere. Like that's my vision of what America looks like healthy, right? Somehow we integrate all the, you know what I'm saying? And even the researchers got to be in there, right? Because the researchers have to have time to integrate new findings, new information, or old stuff that we missed into current protocols, right? If you're trying to fit 30 people into a schedule made for you to see 15 people every day, you don't have the time for that. You don't even have time for your families. That's why doctors have a real high turnover of divorce rate, right? And don't anybody make jokes about me. Because I'm not a medical doctor or a surgeon, but I'm in that number, right? Because you may not have time for, certain things, right? Because you're so inundated and overwhelmed with, right? So anyway, where was we, right? Let me get back to start talking about me. Anyway, so glutamate and GABA both derive from non-essential amino acids form the balance of neural activity. Tyrosine is also synthesized from phenylalanine and feeds dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine production. This means cognition, focus, emotional stability, and the brain's ability to adapt, right, all depend on non-essential amino acid production, right? Very important because that right there encompasses all of your mental health, right? All of your mental health or mental instability is wrapped up right in that sentence, right? Cognition, focus, emotional stability, and the brain's ability to adapt, right? That means adapt to stress, adapt to new problems, problem solving, pattern recognition, all of those different things, right? Setting goals, ambition, drive, right? Gut lining and digestive enzyme renewal. The gut lining turns over every 3 to 5 days, requiring a constant flood of non-essential amino acids like glutamine, serine, and alanine. These also form the backbone of digestive enzymes, meaning nutrient absorption depends on non-essential amino acid production. This is why gut healing protocols fail if the patient's metabolism isn't producing adequate non-essential amino acids. Listen, if you've been watching this video from the beginning, and you might have learned at least 1 or 2 things, or let alone 10 or 20 things, just think about it. We have only just started the 3rd page that we're reading in this book. And this book has 300 pages. So we at 2.5 pages with all of this information. So if you do not have these books, you need to get these books. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, you need to get these books. All right. Detoxification and antioxidant defense. Glutathione, the body's master antioxidant, is built from glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. 2 of these 3 are non-essential amino acids. Without them, the detox pathways in the liver and redox buffering in every cell collapse, increasing oxidative stress and tissue damage. Into that, we can add melatonin, right? We can add melatonin. And anyway, hormone and receptor protein construction. From insulin to melanocortins to growth factors, all peptide hormones are chains of amino acids. Non-essential amino acids fill most of the positions in these chains, meaning hormone signaling collapses without them. This includes anabolic drivers like IGF-1 and repair mediators like transforming growth factor beta, right? TGFB, right? Melanocortin system activation and flow enhancement. Non-essential amino acids fuel the enzymes that synthesize melanocortins, molecules that control appetite, energy expenditure, sexual function, and pigmentation. When coupled with blood flow enhancement, they act like an amplifier for metabolic repair, distributing amino acid resources into the most damaged tissues first. Continuous organ and bone maintenance. Bone matrix is largely protein before it is mineralized, and glands are mostly protein in their structural framework. The liver, pancreas, kidneys, and even the brain are rebuilt daily with non-essential amino acids forming the majority of the new protein structure. A fast, well-fed metabolism is like a high-speed repair crew that keeps every organ youthful. My youth. Let's go, CJ. Let's go, CJ. You know why I never say the page numbers? Because I don't know how to properly say the page numbers when they in the, in the Roman numerals, right? I know that's supposed to be a 9, right? Is that supposed to? Yeah, that's supposed to be a 9 with the 1 in front of the X. Yeah. But the introduction, it starts on Roman numeral V11, which is like 7. And then it goes to 8. Then it's 9, right? And then right now we on page X. Right now we on page X in the introduction, right? And that's one of the things with how Amazon publish books. Stuff you don't get to see until they send you the first rough copy, like the rough draft copy, like the preprint, whatever. All right. How long have we been talking? All right, so I think y'all get what we in store for, right? Do you want encore? Do you want more cooking raw with the Brooklyn boy? I mean, one last time, I need y'all to roar. Oh, we didn't even get to this. We did not get to the food list. We did not get to the food list. All right, we'll get to the food list. Maybe that's week 1. Day 1 or day 2, who knows? That might be week 1, day 1. All right, where we go through the top 100. Yeah, we got to go through the top 100. All right, the top 100 and break them all down. Break them all down so we can get to that complete protein conversation, right? The complete protein. Oh, well, these are not complete proteins. You know, that's why we were talking about the beef business and the cowboys earlier, because they drive that conversation. And so obviously beef, you know, chicken, like animal proteins are pretty much always complete proteins, right? They're pretty much complete. And what a complete protein means, textbook standard, is that it contains all of your essential amino acids, right? So when they talk about complete proteins, they're really focusing their attention over here. It has all of your essential amino acids that you need for the day, or at least some of them all. And so if you get enough of that, whatever that is, enough chicken, enough beef, whatever, you should be able to cover all of your essential amino acids, right? Because if you don't eat them, then your body will not have them. On the flip side, though, if you're not eating the carbohydrates, your body won't get these either. So they make it seem like you got to focus on eating protein so you have protein. Well, you got to focus on eating carbohydrates so you have protein too. Yeah, right. But the other big thing, and we'll probably discuss it a zillion times until it sinks into everybody's brain, but with the complete protein, like nobody, I mean, it came out back in the day, so there was some people doing it. And so maybe there are people somewhere in the health universe that are doing like, I would imagine that there are people somewhere in the health universe today still doing mono diets. That was a thing at a time period. There was a time period where that was like the thing to do. And I still do that sometime. So yeah, maybe people are doing that because I still do it every once in a while, though. You know, every once in a while I'll do it with apples. That's my thing. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. Like, you know how we were talking earlier about when you eating crazy and then you go into your bag. You know what I'm saying? Usually that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I'll go for a day or two just eating apples. Right. That's, you know, I just eat apples. I'm not eating nothing else. I'm just going on apples. Right. But mono diets is typically people deciding that they're only eating one food item, you know, for that day or during that fast. Or there are versions of mono diets where, and this is from memory because this is kind of old school, but there are versions of mono diets where people would eat one thing per meal. Right. So sit down and maybe they're eating just kale, or maybe they're having just steak, right? Whatever. Right. And then the next meal, they might just have, you know, whatever, sweet potatoes, or they might only have chicken breasts or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But just one item per meal, right? To give their body, you know, maximum digestion and whatever. Yeah, I don't think that's still a thing. You know, I don't think that's still a thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I might be the last man alive still running some version of the one food program. Yeah, but that's not something necessarily that's super scientific or whatever. That's just a thing that, you know, back when I started messing around with diets and whoop, it always worked well for me. And apple is, if there's a superfood, like a real superfood, because superfood is usually a commercial term just used to drive up superficial value of prices so that people can just pay pay like triple or quadruple what they should be paying for an item because it's a superfood, you know what I'm saying? But Apple would be one of the things. Apples would definitely go into like a superfood category if there ever was like a real superfood category. Apples would go in there because do so many different things, from liver maintenance to like gallbladder, and if you don't have a gallbladder, then apples and prune juice, like, because there's people who allowed them folks to go ahead and remove their gallbladder. So you're in trouble, right? So if you're one of those people that don't have a gallbladder, you need to have like an apple and a glass of prune juice, probably at least once or twice a day. Yeah, that'll help you. That'll help make up for the fact that you don't have a gallbladder. But yeah, apples, but we in America, right? We don't get apples marketed to us as superfoods. People in countries where apples don't grow as plentiful, they would get apples marketed to them as superfoods in some other countries. And then that helps us in America with our gross domestic, like us exporting apples to other countries. And then the people, the governments of those countries get to tell them people, oh, apple is a superfood. It works for this and that, and it helps the kidney and the liver and this, and the spleen and this and that, and they breaking it down. And so people over there might be paying like $5 for one apple. You know what I'm saying? Or $3 for one apple. You know what I'm saying? Whereas we're paying between $3 and $5 for a bag of apples, right? We're spending $4 on. We're paying like roughly like $1.50 per pound of apples. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have any importance placed on consuming apples because everything is driven by commerce. And that's where commerce, can become, that's where capitalism can get in the way. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fan of capitalism. I'm a fan of commerce, but there are downsides to every system, right? And so if money's the driving factor, then some stuff you'll miss out on. You know what I'm saying? Because apples are everywhere here. Same way like when you go to the South, places like Florida or whatever, they got, mangoes or oranges or whatever, or coconuts or whatever, up north, especially like in Michigan, forget about it. Apples are everywhere. There's people that can't get rid of the apples enough. Like they do. All schools in the north part of the country, or at least the northeast anyway, all schools work with the local orchards to try to eat up them apples because they can't even get rid of them all. So schools always have class trips to the orchard and they go pick apples and eat them and take them home or whatever, give them away for free. Some people's parents are dumb. They're dumb. When the kids bring home a garbage bag full of apples they got from the orchard, the parents tell the kids, throw them apples out. You don't know where them apples been. Those ain't from the supermarket. Them apples ain't from the supermarket. Throw them apples out. I know, because my mama told that to me. So I know. Don't bring them apples in here. Where you got them from? We went on a class trip, Mom. Them apples ain't even from the supermarket. They get rid of them. Ma, I got these off the trees. These is. You don't know what was on them trees. Dogs probably peed on them trees and everything. Like what that got to do with the apples all the way at the top? What did you talking about? Boy, you heard what I said. Get them apples up out of here. You want some apples? Take these food stamps. Go get you some apples from the supermarket, okay? Those are the nutritious. Those are healthy ones. Yeah, those are good. They don't have no germs on it. No bacteria and germs and stuff like that. See, I'm almost 50. So before microbiome got popular, we only had one. Well, I ain't gonna say one, but we always been in a weird space with germs. You know what I'm saying? We always been in a weird space with germs because germs are listed as the origin of life, but germs are also, same word, listed as disease forming agents. So you got, wait a minute. Germ cells, sperms and eggs, you know, the stuff that makes people. Germ cells, single cell bacteria that infects people and makes people get sick and or die sometimes. What? Right? So we coming into, you know, we're slowly but surely coming out of the germ theory. Right? We're coming out of the germ theory slowly but surely. There's still people holding on to the germ theory though, and all of its ideas. Right? The same way we got people holding on to Darwin's concepts and some stuff like that. So, yeah, see, y'all laughing because you know that's what your mama told you too. She's like, yeah, get rid of them apples. You just pick them off of trees. Them you don't know what's been up on them trees. People been touching them and everything. People been touching them and everything. So clearly, from the neighborhood, our parents don't even know that. How you think these got into plastic bags? How you think these apples got? People was touching them and everything. How you think these got into plastic bags? People was touching them and everything. That's how they got into the plastic bag, right? And then black people, we the worst. Black people, we the worst because we assume that we the only folks that's going into the supermarket sampling the goods. Yeah. My mom was a chronic sampler. Oh, she getting ready to sample. If she getting ready to buy something, she getting ready to have one. I love my mother. But she would definitely sample some stuff out of the produce section. If we getting grapes, we eat a few grapes there to make sure they taste good. Well, at least that's what she would say anyway. We gotta make sure they taste good before we get these. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we get ready to sample at least. Let me take one of these apples. Yeah. And we're going to take an apple out of a bag and we're going to close that bag and leave that bag. We're going to purchase a full bag though. And the crazy thing is what I'm talking about is that she would assume that nobody else is doing that in the supermarket. Like, Mom, first of all, the apples got to get in the bag off the tree. So somebody's touching these to put them in the bag. Then in the supermarket, people is touching all over these things. Like, what? We've been in the supermarket touching fruits and, you know, going crazy. Yeah. Come on now. People opening up them strawberries, all them berries now. Forget about it. The berries get super violated. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I learned that that's how I learned that you can learn business stuff off the street. You know what I'm saying? In the street, you got phrases like run off. Yo, homeboy ran off with the work. He ran off with the, you know what I mean? He ran off on me. Then when I got to Verizon Wireless, it was like, no, don't worry about it. Somebody's stealing. You know, we just write it off and put it on the shrink report. I was like, a shrink report? What's that? What's a shrink report? It's like, oh, shrink. This is, you know, the stolen items, you know, it gets put on a shrink and we just call it shrink. You know what I'm saying? So anything that we lose is, you know, I'm like, oh, like if somebody run off, manager's exactly, you got it. So I know that supermarkets take a beating in the produce section, period. Because, you know, people was definitely getting ready to hit them berries and certain little carryables. Certain little carryables. Yeah, certain little carryables. Yeah. Talk that talk. Bro. Listen, I'll be weighing the bags. When I go, I'll be weighing the bags. And I was in there and we was buying some grapes. I think it was grapes not too long ago. And my little ones asked me, if it says the weight on the bag, why are you weighing it? Because they was like in a rush. And I'm like, hold on. First of all, don't listen, we taking our time. Okay. Don't be trying to rush me. That's number one. Number two, don't believe nothing that these packages tell you. Okay. Just because it says 3 pounds on the package doesn't mean it's 3 pounds. That means that, first of all, the company intended it to be 3 pounds. It could be 4 pounds. We could be we could be getting a blessing. So we getting ready to weigh these things out and see what it's supposed to be. Secondly, how you know how many people done sampled this before we came over here to grab this bag? Yeah, it's supposed to be 3 pounds, but this bag might be 2.5. Yeah, it might be 2.5. In which case, I'm getting robbed. So I need to weigh these to make sure I'm getting what I'm supposed to be getting. So yeah, I be counting stuff. If I go get apples and the apples say whatever, if I don't take it and put it on the thing, I'll count the apples in the bag and be like, oh, okay, this one got 10 apples. This one got 9 apples. Let's put this one back. Yeah, this one. Somebody must have sampled one of these joints. We're going to get this here with 10 apples. Yeah. Otherwise, you that joint stepped on somebody that already, you know what I mean? Like, no. Listen, every dollar counts. I can't get the 2.8 pounds when I paid for 3. I need to get my whole 3 pounds. Yeah, I can't afford 2.7 pounds, 2.8 pounds. Yeah, we got to get what we supposed to get. Hey, listen, that's because people been in there sampling. That's because people been in there sampling, violating the supermarket. Nah, listen, we got to teach them. You ain't the only one, and the babies got to learn because, you know, they coming into the world now. They think, you know, everybody's, I'm a boss, calling shots. No. We ain't bossing, calling shots. Okay, we checking budgets, checking price, and you know we checking sales prices and receipts.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.